Okay. Give you your yearly.
Yep, so there's $12,960
A year
annual
income.
Okay.
Okay.
And then over here on the expense side, I've got taxes of $2,048.
Okay.
I'm just going to put insurance of $600. And I'm going to take 5% of that number as a vacancy factor.
5% of the annual income.
So 12,960 times 0.95. Oops. 960 times 0.05. $648. You can plug in, it's not uncommon to plug in another 5% maintenance for just long-term care.
That's good. It's going to need it.
It's going to need it. Some people can take that similar type avenue towards it. So there's another 648.
Okay.
So my expenses coming off of that are 2,048 plus 600 plus 648 plus 648 is 3,944. So I would call that my net operating income, or NOI, and divide that by your $140,000 sales price. Oops, went backwards. Divided by 3,944. That's not right either. Oh, I just got to subtract the 2 here. Excuse me. So 12,960 minus 3,944 is 9,016 NOI.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So divide that by 140,000. There's a 6.4 cap rate.
Okay, so you take the 140,000 divided by the NOI equals the cap rate.
So
what are we seeing cap rates around here?
You're going to see mostly 6s. If you can get a 7, great. Buyers want 7s, sellers want 6. So they price this going, I think it's worth this much money, and here's the cash flow associated with it. So if I'm a realtor going to try and list a property, I come back with this format and kind of basically say, in order to lure a buyer, you got to have a minimum of a 6 cap rate, but they really want 7. And so there's 6.4. So that's probably going to be a pretty good average.
Right.
And so if you can find 6.5 to 7, that's about where things are selling at in terms of just. So again, if somebody talks to me, what's my property worth, and I can say, what's your net operating income, I can times it by 6.5, and that gives me a sales price to tell them basically what their property's worth from a cash flow standpoint. If it's in need of a lot of repair, you know, I might have a higher cap rate, but it's got a lot of deferred maintenance where I got to start spending money on it, and so it's they're not all apples to apples. So this one actually was in pretty good shape. Didn't need a lot outside. Siding was probably the big issue. But from a cash flow standpoint,
I'm trying to remember what kind of windows that had in it. I don't remember. Probably vinyl.
I think they were all newer vinyl windows.
Yeah, they look like it, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I would do on any property that I'm looking at. If this number comes into the 5s, I'm going, I got to make a better buy on it because there's not enough cash flow for what I'm paying for it. Or if this shows up at a 7 and it's in good shape, then that makes me go, that's a great property. If it's a 7 but it's got $20,000 of deferred maintenance, they're milking cash flow out of it, but I got to go spend a lot of money to keep sustaining it at that point.
Yeah. So if you divide that 9,000 by 12, just give me a monthly, what, just out of curiosity.
$751.
$751. Okay.
So you still got to service your debt load.
Right. That's why I was trying to.
Yeah, off of that. And so this doesn't factor in your loan or your down payment.
Correct.
So most people look at it and go, if I'm spending 4% on my money on my mortgage, I'm netting 2.5% on that property. Because I'm paying interest out 4% on the money I'm borrowing, not even factoring in my down payment. And so that's what I'm saying is, if you factor in 20%, there's $28,000 as a down payment. Okay, I expect a return on my $28,000, but I'm spending interest on $115,000
right
at 4% interest on my mortgage. So I'm netting 2.5%, but I get depreciation, which kicks me back up into another 2 or 3%. So I'm making 5-6% net return on my investment.
Okay. With the depreciation.
With the depreciation.
Okay. All right. That makes sense then. So the depreciation comes into effect with my current job and stuff, is what you're saying. That's where that would benefit from.
Right, because right now you're going to be in the highest tax bracket, and you're just going to pay a lot out to Uncle Sam. So
this is a tax write-off.
Professionals that have good cash flow but pay out the nose in taxes quite often want to own real estate that they can use that depreciation, and they'll do as fast as accelerated depreciation as the IRS will let you, because you want write-offs to quit paying. And so sometimes a lot of people go, okay, I've depreciated as much as I can off in a 10-year period. It's time now for me to sell that property and buy something else that I can start depreciation on again. And so you'll find in my experience, the real savvy investor for real estate rotates their properties about every 7 to 12 years. And so they get them in good shape, they milk them, they get their appreciation, they sell them before they have to put a lot of money back into them on the second go around. So you want them still in good enough shape that they lure the next buyer, but you're not having to put all new carpets in every 10 years. You run it good for about 7 or 8 years, but before they're totally worn out, you sell it again, buy something else, start depreciation on that one. So most people don't buy and hold for 20-30 years. They buy for 7 to 10 to 15 and get onto that rotation where I buy it, I run my depreciation cycles, I sell it. I get capital gains, hopefully if the market's gone up. So you get a little capital gains. Sometimes you'll do a 1031 deferred exchange to buy your next investment property. And so that just waives your tax consequence. The tax is still due, but it's rotated to the next
start
property.
all over.
You start all over
with the depreciation.
So most people, just from a tax planning strategy of going, okay, I'm doing well, I'm a doctor, I can go buy some properties, I want the depreciation, I want the cash flow to help avoid my tax consequences, but I'm kind of building for my future or for my kids also. So once you get to the point where you're dying off and you have 15 rental properties, your kids inherit them, the capital gains all goes away. So you've avoided capital gains for 30-40 years of that property and that property and that property and that property. You owe hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital gains. That all just went away for your kids, and now they inherit it at a new step up in basis, and they acquire it at today's market value with no tax consequences.
That's interesting.
And so it kind of helps twofold in that you can, and they keep trying to take the 1031 tax exchange out of the equation, but it's a major tax planning strategy for real estate investors.
Yeah.
And so that's not what I got some wealthy clients, and that's just their forte of going. Rather than me, I'll get them all deeded off into a trust or a corporation, so I don't end up with an inheritance tax. I'm avoiding my capital gains tax, and I make my kids the beneficiaries of that trust, and so they're getting the best of all worlds, and in the meantime I get some tax benefit.
I see what you're saying.
So that's a strategy from some people that want to go that route.
It's interesting. Different ways of going about it.
I've got a guy here in Idle Falls that owns several millions of dollars of property, and he just goes, you know, I can hand my kids cash, I can teach them how to manage properties. I'd rather deed them properties, and I get the benefit of owning them, and you know, he has good cash flow in his life. And so he says, I can either pay Uncle Sam, or I can help my kids inherit some properties and give them a step up. If they want to go sell it when I'm dead, so be it. But they're acquiring a property that's now paid for, and they get it at today's market value without any tax consequences.
That's pretty neat.
So that works for some. Others go, no, I want to be in the stock market, or I want just a big savings account, or something else. But stock market's volatile, savings accounts make you nothing.
Yeah.
Real estate has its peaks and valleys. So one day you're feeling like, oh, my properties are all going up and they're cash flowing good and I got my depreciations. And then a real estate crash will happen and you'll go, dang, I wish I didn't own these, because now they're not worth what they were 5 years ago.
Right.
And it'll perk back up. So you'll see about 7-year cycles in real estate.
Okay.
And so don't panic when it's doing this. You know, we just came out of 2007, 2008 when it crashed. Now people are coming back into it pretty strongly because they're going, stock market's gone up, but we're expecting a crash on it. I don't want my money in the stock market. Now I'd rather have it in real estate, because we've been at the bottom of real estate. We're on an upward trend here.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of people that want to balance that strategy in their lives for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make an absolute living out of rental properties, it's really hard to do, because there's not enough cash flow at this size of properties. If somebody's going, I want to make a living owning rental properties, I will say, don't be buying these. Go save up $100,000 and go buy $1 million apartment building.
Yeah.
That will give you cash flow enough long term to sustain a livelihood. But these at $700-800 a month, somebody can never make a living buying old houses and trying to sustain a living out of them.
Okay.
So that's
good advice. That's great advice. I appreciate that.
My 2 cents worth.
Can I have this?
You bet. Yep.
Just we'll go through that.
So that's what I would do. That's what I do every time I go list a property. I don't want to go see how deteriorated it is, but at the end of the day, you're buying it more for cash flow than you are curb appeal. And so I go, you've got to have it in good enough shape to get it financed and get an appraiser to sign off on it. So if you haven't put a dime into it for 15 years, I'm going to knock $20,000-$30,000 off of it because it needs a lot of work. But more times than not, if it's got any kind of cash flow, so if I can even find an old worn out property that's got a 7% cap rate, it'll sell just due to its cash flow. But if you can find something that's in good shape with a 7 cap rate, then I'd say those are the type of properties you want to grab.
So this property here, what would be a good
and I like that I like that it's 3 units. If you have 1 empty unit, it's not killing you if it sits there empty for a month or 2.
Right.
You still got 2/3 of your income coming in.
That's part of our reason.
Yeah. You buy just an old single house and it sits empty for a month or 2.
Kills you.
You've lost 20% of your total income for the year on that property. Well, you're only making 5%.
Right.
So you just had a negative gain of 15% on that property for 2 months worth of vacancies.
Yeah.
So having a little threeplex like that is great diversity. It's a good, safe property to own. You know, if we could come in and pick it up at 130, 135, great.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we didn't get into that basement unit, but
Which worries me a little bit. You know?
yeah, and sometimes it's renter's fault, and it's not the homeowner that's trying to hide something. It's just
Yeah.
trying to get renters to accommodate. Tenant on main unit only has agreed to showings with a call first, no response in a reasonable time. Okay to show. So if we can't get the renter to answer, we have permission to go show it.
Okay.
Main unit only. Offers are contingent upon seeing all the other units. Tender offers to Nikki Markowitz, the listing agent, buyer to verify square footages. So it's basically saying, if you're interested in this, make an offer so we aren't spinning all of our wheels for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like it after you've done your due diligence, back out of your offer, is basically what they're saying. If you like it, then we're in agreement and move forward. So most offers are contingent upon you getting financing and getting a home inspection done. And if the home inspection comes in and goes, here's my list of things that need done, Mr. Seller, will you fix A, B, and C?
Yeah.
He can say yes, he can say no, or he'll say, I'll take care of A and B, you deal with the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Or I won't deal with any of them, here's $1,000 or $2,000, you handle it. And so many times when people are asked to do repairs, the homeowner shows up and does it as cheaply and poorly as he can to get it off of his checklist. And you're expecting it to be done by a professional and going, I want it to look sharp and done the way I want it. But there's always a different mindset. If this guy's going, yeah, I've already got my deal made, I just need to get it done so that it looks finished. If I can do it for $200, great, I'll have Uncle Eddie go fix it for me. You're going, no, it's an $800 fix. I want Mr. Joe Plumber over here to go in and redo it all professionally.
Yeah.
So the repairs always become a little bit of an issue. But if we don't come to agreements, the downside is you've just spent $400 or $500 getting a home inspection done, and now you want to walk away from it.
Right.
So you spend a little bit of money. But
Okay.
so I argued with her and said, you know, we can't make a real assessment until we get into them. So she got me into the upstairs unit.
Okay.
But said she called me yesterday and says I can't get the downstairs people to answer. So
Okay.
so anyway, that was to me the only one that
Me too.
I thought had any value and merit to pursuing it.
Okay. Well, let me talk to my wife. And
Your wife was asking how long things have been on the market, and I didn't get that emailed to her yesterday.
mm-hmm.
So there's days on the market. This is the realtor's printout, and I can't send this out to the public.
Okay.
So the next sheet that I can give you the most information on is what I've been sending you with the interior pictures. But I can't legally send out, I can tell you how many days is on the market, but I can't send you out the homeowners' names, phone numbers,
mm-hmm.
details that way, because it's private
I don't
information.
care about that information.
But a lot of people go, well, send me the sheets so I have all the information.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't betray their trust as a listing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's partly why your wife was a little frustrated going, I can see it on my screen, and I tried forwarding her some of the other stuff, but it wasn't going through. And it just gets, from the multiple listing standpoint, there's public sheets and then there's realtor sheets. And so
so this is the one we calculated here. So insurance, we guess it's going to be around $600.
Right.
We know taxes.
No taxes.
All right. Vacancy, maintenance. Let's see what else here. Okay. It comes out to be a 6.4 cap rate, and that's what we're running in the area. 6 to 7.
You're going to find mid sixes is pretty common. Fives, I'd go, it's not enough cash flow or it's overpriced at fives. If you can find a 7, then that's great.
Okay.
But most people, if they're selling it at a 7 cap rate, then the seller's going, I'm not making enough money selling it back out. So
Mm-hmm.
then they raise the price to lower the cap rate
Mm-hmm.
and try and get as much as they can as a seller.
Okay.
So there's a happy medium of going, seller, yes, I know you own it and you want all you can get out of it. Got a buyer here that wants to buy it as cheap as they can and make as much as they can in the future. So it's merging those two happy mediums as a buyer and a seller to do that. But so this was originally listed at $144,900, and it's been on the market 135 days. They've dropped it $4,900 since then. So that's a pretty quick reduction.
Okay.
You know, if we could shoot them a 135 and pick it up at that,
Okay.
that's not unrealistic.
Okay. Well, let me talk to my wife and look into this a little bit and see, figure all this out, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you want me to get you somebody here, I'll make a couple calls. And I've got a friend that's down here that works at the Central 21 office. It's real good with multifamily stuff.
Okay.
Get him, or
Yeah.
there's numerous ones I can call that I got good faith and confidence in.
Mm-hmm. Something I need to know from them, contingent on offer and stuff, is their expense. The NOI we're not factoring in. Are they paying garbage? Are they paying, stuff like that with the current?
Correct.
And I need to get that information from
Right.
them.
And that would be the next phone call that I'd make on ones that you're interested in. Is, can you get me their expenses? What are their garbage bills?
Mm-hmm. That's what I need. I need all that detail.
Water, sewer, and garbage. Most renters pay their own gas or electric, cable TV, but most landlords pay the water, sewer, garbage bill.
Okay. Well, that would help if you could get that for me.
Okay.
Whatever their costs are, and we'll just take it from there, I guess.